All right. This is take two on Minotaur Hotel. Hello, everyone. Um, how's everyone doing? Okay, maybe as you see, I lost everything on Minotaur Hotel. So it may be a bit wonky at the start. Like, very wonky. So let's get to it. The Hinterlands, Part 5. I used to weave crowns. You're going soft, you know that? Yeah, but it ain't so bad. It's the kid's first paycheck, and he deserves some time off. I might not be good for much, but I can at least give him that. On a day on the beach. Some things he's never enjoyed before. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. How long it's gonna take before you give up on pretending you're his dad? Oscar stared out at the coastline with a child's excitement. I never seen a beach before. It's just sand and salt water, nothing you haven't seen before. So what if it is? It'll be good for you too. At least you'll get some sunlight. Look, I promise things will all clear up after today. All you need is some fresh air and fun. And some cleansing too. Maybe there's just some of that defilement shit on you right now. I'll bet my whole paycheck that by tomorrow morning, at least something will be cleared up, and you'll have a nice job offer in your lap. Are you betting for real? You know I'm just the right kind of mean and desperate to hold you to it. Jeez, can't even make a joke? Money's no joke, kid. Fine, Dad. No more joking around. A job offer, just like that? If only if it were so simple, or had been so easy for Grandpa. What kills me is that he could have had quit. You know, he didn't even need to go back to the hinterlands and work for the Colonel. Could have gone to the big city, tried his luck there. Then he wouldn't have done all the regrettable things he did. And maybe my father wouldn't have grown up all fucked up in the head. You could say that. The chances are I wouldn't have been born. Maybe Dad would have never met Mom. I know that's bullshit, but it's what people tell each other so they won't have to reflect on all the evil back in their past. So, Grandpa could have come here. No 12 dead to purrs, no Colonel salting their meat and eating it over the years, no chest full of chewed up bones, no God deprived of his skin, no curse in the land, turning into a spiral of stagnation. And who knows, maybe Oscar's life would have been better, had that been the case. So why didn't he? Maybe it was really because of that damned hotel. He sure as hell still thought he could find it. But he also had a sweetheart back here, Grandma, with whom he'd always wanted to get together. Then they had their kid, and despite all the flaws, wouldn't go into the city without a job lined up. Be too risky for a family man. It's the same shit all over again. 2 days before, I'd received an email from a master's program, an institution in Europe. I'd applied to about 2 months before going to the hinterlands, back when my mind wasn't such a mess. I was accepted, was even offered a small fellowship, just enough to move and keep the lights on, but spending 2 or 3 years there, not earning a real income, would have been a debt skyrocket. I had to mention it to Oscar. Still, it was a way out. If I played my cards right, I could get a job abroad and leave this all behind. Or it might push me further down this hole I'm in. The alternative was looking for a job here. Not an easy prospect, unless I took my father's offer and joined the private security firm he works for. Going to the Masters has its risks, but it's my best bet if I want to break out of this cycle for good. But that begs the question, what about Oscar? I promised the kid I'd help him get his life in order, and by God, he's been lifting his own weight. But with that kind of paycheck, he won't be able to pay the bills. I think that's a bit loud. Hold up. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Alright, that's be better. Okay, sorry. Probably wouldn't be long before he's homeless again. This is all one big sick joke, isn't it? It's all happening again. A watchman and his charge locked together on the path to ruin. Between Oscar's hooves and my scales, we didn't have to worry about the blazing and sand scalding our feet. However, the myriad of reflective surfaces created an unexpected burning sensation. Between the glare coming off the ocean, the sand, and the buildings, all of my eyes were seeing spots. Needless to say, I can't exactly squint my tail. Likewise, I wasn't about to shell out for 50 sets of sunglasses to... Sell out? Oh. Wow, shell out. What the heck? Shell out for 50 sets of sunglasses to cover the extra eyes, or spend an hour taping them in place. The kid was right. You lump of shit. This wouldn't hurt so much if you weren't being a goddamn shut-in. But this lump of shit's out now, and I'm making the most of it. It was the kid's first beach trip. I had to make it count. Storm marveled at the crowd within his field of view along the shore. There were more people than in all the drowns of Purr. It wasn't even that busy of a day. Oscar galloped off, swinging and lashing his tail left and right with every lumbering step. I reckon he was getting used to the feeling of soft, loose sand beneath him. 20 or so meters ahead of me, he leapt towards the foreshore and sank into the sand. Up to his shins at the tide sent sea foam back to greet him. He turned back to me, laughing, coiling himself to burst into another sprint, or maybe he was inviting me to follow him as he kicked at the Atlantic. Oh God. I dragged a smile out, kicking and screaming, but the very idea of running after him almost made me collapse. I still managed to wave, at least. Even after seeing him go whole hog into all that wasn't enough to set my mind at ease. Didn't know if I should tell him or not. He looked towards the horizon ahead of us, then back to me, and started to trot over, although his attention was caught a second later by some seashells on the shore. Sally sells seashells. And just like that, he was in a world of his own, collecting shells and throwing them all in a little hole he dug in the ground. That gave me enough time to catch up with him. Don't pay attention to the sad sack lump. Don't let me drag you down. Someone's having a good time. Yeah, you reckon we can find a big seashell over here? You know, like the kind that goes in a spiral. I've seen a few of them around here, yeah. Sometimes they wash ashore. He grabbed my hand and almost pulled my arm out of its socket as he guided me along. Hey, did you bring your passport with you? Nah, I left that home. Didn't want to get in wet or something. In that case, the ear gauge I gave you, you do remember it makes us look alike, don't you? People think that we're brothers or father and son. So what? Is that bad? Just saying. So, should we keep up the disguise, Agent P? I can call you Pappycock. After that, I told him I'd find a place to lay a towel down. He was concerned that he wouldn't be able to find me before remembering my bright green feathers. Still, he tried to drag me into the water. It took no small amount of coaxing to get him to let me off the hook. In the end, I wound up reassuring him that lying in the sun for a bit would recharge my batteries. He made a few attempts at swimming, the first of which ended as soon as he tried taking a dive with his eyes open. Even if I had laid my head back, I could hear the Minotaur above the din of the other beachgoers. Trundling footsteps followed by periodic sputtering as he came up for air and blew hair out of his eyes, culminating in a panic snort of clear to clear the salt water from his nose. Seawater. For a good hour or so, he just dug a hole, and then two other guys joined him. When the tide rose and swallowed it up, they disbanded. I don't think they ever asked each other's names. Mostly, however, he searched for and collected seashells until late into the afternoon, when he stumbled upon a sunglasses salesman who happened to have a conch he was willing to part ways with, only for him to find a bigger, better one not an hour later. We had lunch in a little hut by the sea, manta ray dumplings, French fries, plain white rice, and the freshest tuna this side of the country. Look, that actually seems good. Oscar could always eat a lot, and sometimes the habit could rub off on me. Earlier in the day, I'd found a little alcove where I could sit in the shade. That's where we went in the late afternoon, when the kid got himself tuckered out. He took a nap, so I kept the vigil and stood guard. When it started to get dark, we prepared for another one of the Oscar's requests. He wanted to make a bonfire. We had parked the car by an abandoned lot, covered in overgrown vegetation and dried up dead trees. Oh, beautiful sunset. I still feel bad for P, but I don't know, he seems like a bitch sometimes. Oscar went about getting some wood and told me to find some paper for a fire starter. Didn't even think of buying some charcoal until I already paid for a newspaper, but I still had enough cash for a small bag. Walking back, I took a look through the paper. Frustrating headlines, a cacophony of classifieds, and personals, meaningless, and horoscopes. When I got back to our spot, Oscar wasn't there. Just tell him you're tired and you'll really want to go home early so you can get a good start on replying to emails tomorrow. Then I heard a crack. Looking over to the edge of the woods, I caught sight of him, pressing his knee on a long, thick branch, trying to break it. Tell him that we should go. It's getting dark and weird. I sighed such that every muscle in my chest tightened and wouldn't let go. Then I went and helped him. We didn't talk, but we just grunted as we both put our weight into the breaking that big-ass branch into little logs, small enough pieces to build a fire. Oscar seemed damn proud of himself and bumped his shoulder against mine. For the second time, he almost knocked me over. As I was crumpling up the newspaper, he asked me to save the page with the comics and puzzles. I felt like my skull was going to split open from the pressure with every new step added to the ordeal. Still, I obliged and folded the page up for him. And that's when I remembered I had bought charcoal. In the end, we used a bit of everything, including the paper and wood. It took until I lit the paper on the fire for us to finally talk, as we watched the flames take hold of it all. Burning. I'm burning up like that, aren't I? Just worries. Can't provide anything but eyes. Eyes for bad people. Eyes for bad people. Can't stop seeing those holes. After all these years, it still works. Or does it? Did it ever work? Some watchman you are. Pedro, fuck. Why do they do this to me? Pedro, how are you feeling? Just tired. Yeah. Oscar? I think I'm going crazy. I keep having visions of the hotel. It's just like my grandpa described. And full of mythicals too. I'm getting more of them. They're coming during the daytime now. I'll just be lying on the couch and I pulled down to see it again. At first I thought they were visions leading me there. Now I'm wondering if they might just be me going crazy. Grandpa had them too. Maybe it was schizophrenia. Maybe I got it from him. My goddamn inheritance. Pedro, your feathers are fucking magic though. Don't they see shit pretty reliably? They do, but mythicals aren't immune to mental illness. And for my people in particular, it can manifest as visual hallucinations like that. Listen, if this really is some sort of schizophrenia creeping up on me, if I really do, it can take a while for mental illnesses to set in. So I might still have a few good years left. But there will come a day when I won't be able to say it. Won't be the same person you knew. Even if I get medicated, even if all goes well as it can, when that day comes, if for some reason I'm still in your life, I want you to contact with me, alright? It's for your own good. Don't worry about me. I won't even be me anymore. What the fuck are you talking about? Even if you do go crazy, I ain't gonna abandon you like that. That's what you say now, but it ain't easy being around someone like... Even if I do get treatment, it won't be as smooth, right? No, fuck off with that. I told you, I'm staying by you. You put up with all my shit enough, and let me live in your place, and all that, and god damn it, I'm gonna make it up to you, whether you want it or not, you cunt. Maybe you just need some kind of specialist, head shrinker. Ain't there any who specialize in mythicals? What is a head shrinker? Yeah, you're right about me needing a psychiatrist. My antidepressants aren't doing the trick anymore. So, like, it's just like being sick, right? You just need the right doc and stuff, and you'll get better. Shit, maybe. I need to get a job, though. Probably from one of my dad. Then I can just go to the staff shrink. Shit. Can't you get one another way? Didn't you ask if the university had a psychiatrist for students? And didn't they answer they'd go as far as subsiding your medication? I don't think so. The kid's ears dropped, and his gaze went down between his hooves. Look at what you've done. You ruined the night for him. Always have to bring everyone else down with you, huh? Let's change the subject. So, what did you have planned for this nice fire we got going? The flames warmed looked at him. He didn't hear me at first. I had to speak louder. Only then did Oscar perk back up. Yeah, so, I hope you don't mind, but I've found your spellbook. We're in a healthier mindset. I might have been mad. As it was, though, mostly just surprised he was interested. You weren't meant to look in it. What it got's in there is secret. Yeah, but it also says a master can share with their pupil. And ain't that what I am? Well, yeah, but you're not even a novice. Most of what's in it is too advanced for you. And it can backfire if you don't know what you're doing. Not this one. Your notes said it was one of the easier ones. All that's needed is an object with a spiral, a fire, salt, and an amulet. We're in a healthier mindset. I might have seen where he was going with that. As it was, though, I was still a selfish asshole, caught up in my own crap. Your spellbook says magic is more powerful when it's done for others. Is that right? Right. Rites, which rely on the caster's humanity, are more effective and long-lasting if done for another's benefit. Yes. Good. I might not be able to sacrifice an eye to start for my rituals, but maybe this will be enough to get you going. He pulled up the huge spiral shell that he'd been so proud of finding earlier that day, and dropped a handful of salt from a baggie into its opening. It was the Tapir God's salt. So, I have the spiral, the salt, the fire, the amulet. I put inside the conch earlier today. So, the last thing I need to begin with the rite is a story, right? I nodded. Oscar carefully pushed the conch into the middle of the flames with a stick as he began to speak. Sorry if I ain't the best at this, but... So like once upon a time, long ago, there was a woman called Io, who picked up a god as his lover. When the god's wife became suspicious, he ended up turning Io into a cow to keep her hidden from her. But that backfired when she asked for Io as a gift. And the goddess sent Io to be kept by her trusted guard, a giant with hundreds of eyes, who never slept. And that story goes on. Ain't that right, P? Pedro's not your real name, is it? Names are a powerful thing if you know what to make of them. I told you. Pedro is what my grandpa called me. It's what's written on the documents, but my people, we're meant to be replaceable, so our name is also our position. Back when mythicals became rare, we all shared a single name. Eventually, we'd die in our service and another of us would be sent, and life would go on. So, give me your name. Your real name. I almost retched. Dad would be so proud of you for asserting your position, though. Would it Grandpa be? No. Do I gotta guess it then? Argos Panoptus. That's where the P comes from, isn't it? See, I can play detective too. He chuckled. He chuckled with so much joy in his voice that I could have strangled him. Now, was that so bad? More than you can ever imagine. I'm Io, and you're Panoptus. I get it now why you're so fixated on the paperclips and recursion. But I know what I can do. I'll release you from it. Oscar stood in one swift motion, looked intently at the cracked and fire-licked conch, took a deep breath, and brought his hoof down on it in one mighty stomp. In a rush, a wind from within the flames blew the fire almost entirely out. What embers were left around the perimeter of the pit illuminated a little shining object. It's done. You made me a charm, so I made you an amulet, to keep you safe from recursion. After some tentative poking to make sure it wasn't still hot, Oscar picked up the small band from amongst the remains of the shattered shell. He sat back down and took my hand. His skin and fur felt so much warmer than the amulet. I finally got a good look at the thing. It was a bracelet, made with the light wooden beads and single darker, bigger one. I hope you don't mind, but I remembered you saying that your gramps made you a bead bracelet charm, and it broke when you died. This spell requires something that's valuable to you. I didn't want to spoil the surprise, but I wasn't sure if you'd like it, so I only took one bead. The spellbook said I had to make something that broke a cycle. So I took the one and put it in a bracelet with different beads. So it's like the one thing breaking recursion, you know? Is it alright? It was still warm in my hand. Despite the darkness, it shimmered with the last remnants of magic around us. I put it on. The size of it was just right for me, and the shape perfect for a spell. A textbook right, if I ever seen one. And it was Oscar who did it. Not a month ago, he was homeless, living by a pond, and stealing food to survive. Now, that rowdy goddamn kid had a job, was about to start school, was happy about his future, and had performed a rite for me. Yeah, it's all good, kid. Grandpa chose to stay because of his family, or because of his dream of finding the hotel again. It's all the same, either way. Look where it got him. But I can take my chance and leave. Start that post-grad. Even if it sinks me further into debt, at least it'll get me out of this cycle. But what about Oscar? I can't bring him with me, can I? God. Is this really the only way out? I can't leave him. Not when he's just starting to get his life in order. And if I do go, am I ever going back to the hinterlands? Will I ever have a chance to find the hotel again? No. God damn it. I can't hold on to this crazy dream any longer. This is my chance to break free from the generations of bloodshed. And if I don't take it, I'll end up just like Grandpa. And if you do, you'll have to leave the kid behind, barely gotten on his feet, and you're already bailing on him. What a shitty father figure you turned out to be. Just like that old bastard. Just like Gramps. Go. If you're so keen on saving your Sarhide, then go. But don't you forget, you promised the world to this kid, and you left him as soon as it was convenient for your shitty ass. Do you really think doing good would be that goddamn simple? Or was making all those nice little promises just an easy way to get it under your thumb while he was still useful. Leave him. Just like your fucked up Gramps left all the people he killed. It's murder either way. And there's a nice cozy spot in hell waiting just for you. Right next to him, and every fucked up piece of shit in your bloodline. Pedro, are you alright? I looked up to his eyes, glimmering in the night like diamonds. Diamonds in the sky. He's a good kid. All he ever needed was someone to give him a proper chance at life. At least for a while, just for long enough that he could get a decent enough job to pay rent. But then some sick, sorry bastard came peacocking about, giving him breadcrumbs while passing them off as diamonds. And the kid got hooked to his lies and attitude. Sick goddamn freak. Got him wrapped up nice and tight around your finger, don't you? Just like that old giant and his prisoner. You can run as far and as fast as you'd like, but you know how that will go. Heads I win and tails you lose. Recursion will make it its fucking punchline. And then life will wring your sorry goddamn neck. I guess there really are some cycles that can't be broken, no matter how hard you try. I'm sorry, Oscar. Oscar looked out the lights of the boats and ships in the distance, fiddling with the hull of his seashells on his lap. Every so often, I'd look down at the amulet around my wrist. I don't know if it steeled my resolve or broke me to resignation. Grandpa, I'm so sorry. This hotel can't exist. None of it can be real. And you were the only one who ever showed me a shred of love. But I can't take this anymore. The road got blurry. Real big, man. Too tough to wipe away your tears. Not too tough for a fucking car crash. Oscar's hand on my shoulder brought me out of my thoughts. His ears flicked with concern. Pedro? He'd been looking at me, but something had caught his eye off in the distance. He squeezed my shoulder. With the other hand, he pointed ahead. Pedro, what's that? Chapter 8. Because I prayed this word, I want. Hundreds of masters have come and gone over the many centuries we've kept our vigil. Good and evil, even kind and ruthless, heretical and pious. One must wonder, then, after witnessing that parade come and go, is this master a lover of justice? Does he look to his charge and sweet-sounding darling, and believe that his own kindness brings justice to his repentant realm? If a courthouse is rotten to its core and only dispatches the innocent to the foulest of torments, wouldn't you say that perverting its decrees might be the finest act one might perform? Or is this master a fierce punisher of hubris, an adamantine renegade, skeptical of the laws and so-called authority which sentences a Styrian to this wretched land? Then he might dream of returning this whole sordid charade, not realizing his revolt is the greatest fairness of them all. Hello. Or perhaps he does it out of love alone. A Cretan prince sat with these similar thoughts for a good long while, his back warmed by dawn. One could argue that affection, tempered by virtue, is a fertile seedbed for its own brand of justice. It is fair and beautiful that good be paid with good. So much is asked of justice to lay pain and agony unto evildoers. But in ancient times, justice was invoked to reward the good. One would mention with reverence the gentle ones may, more times than invoking, grave the self-same furies. Perhaps the good and fine master knows where this is going, even as he still slumbers, caught with a fitful dream or two. It's back to that big old darling, sitting in its fresh little apartment he shares with so-called business partner. An entire morning spent in there, reading that so precious missive from his Lord Hades. He took it in 2 or 3 sentences, stopped, and found his mind wandering, perhaps to shy away from admitting to those unfamiliar thoughts which bubbled up. Morning became afternoon, outside his sanctuary. The hotel came alive, afternoon padded with lazy ease. Towards that appointed, anticipated time, he rose and paced about, thinking about the staff preparing the hotel's grand reopening, then sat back down to take in more of the letter. Perhaps he should have been looking forward to his crowning as one of the 2 kings of this realm, but his focus kept returning to one single thing: the delicate, almost effeminate calligraphy upon this page. He closed his eyes and drew a breath. How odd it was that such a little thing, just the smallest of detail in those old letters, held the power to send his ancient mind back in time. It was said back then, before the spirit of humanity overtook the world, that beneath the godly firmament, the caprous sky, below the well-trodden land and gem-encrusted veins of ore, a kingdom had been carved out inside a hollow within the earth. Many were the legends about its horrifying vistas and depraved torturers. Parents, as always, were keen to share them with their unruly children, and the hybrid prince, of course, was no stranger to these tales. Nothing, however, could prepare him for what he saw. Purest of all waters, filtered free through the Martian earth, and rock of all foul sediment, poured down in soundless waterfalls, and from the stalactites, whirlpools and bountiful wellsprings flowed, filtered and cycled back up to the mortal realm. Roads dangled like children's feet from the ceiling far, far above. At times, petrichor scented water would drip from them too, making for something like the quietest, softest of rains. Neither could the prince have anticipated farms of bountiful, as the underground is dim, nor the sprawling city of the dead as bright as its inhabitant souls. For his first days in the realm of Hades, the prince stayed under the care of Rhadamanthus, his uncle. The old judge was far too keen to introduce him to dozens of long-deceased relatives. As much as when he was a child, being the center of attention made him almost dizzy with nerves. A week after his arrival, the prince made his way through the town. An important meeting had been arranged. Each street corner grazed him with the new and exquisite dialects and languages, and rare faces from races and lands long forgotten. He passed by trees so tall that their canopies acted as columns for the world above. Their bark was decorated with diamonds, rubies, sapphires, gold, silver, all the finest gifts of the underground. Thousands of years, old elders and their grandchildren ran and shouted together, locked in a timeless joy both hopeful and terrifying. Alleys and avenues alike echoed with the wailing of regret. Strong men in battle, at once pleading for their beloved's coming and praying for their enjoyment of long, rich lives. He saw beggars, well-fed and clad in glimmering robes of gold, and queens reduced to a pile, pulling each other's locks over their titles and nobilities long forgotten. He saw monsters, much like himself, hybrids, either in body or soul, their muzzles red and dripping with the juice of pomegranates. Asterians saw on those streets every iniquity and defect that runs with wild under the gods' heavens. And so did he see all is good and worth saving. Life beyond life. A richer existence by far than he was ever allowed to enjoy during his time on the surface seemed impossible here. The town was encircled by mountains, a zigzagging range which formed a cradle around it. He made his way to the tallest peak, climbed stairs and wandered pathways, and meandered through the gardens of life beyond life. There, closest to the surface, was a palace. At its heart was a long courtyard, quieter than sleep, which overlooked all the great kingdom of the dead. And from the edge of that courtyard, its king surveyed his great achievement, eyes cast upon his land and people, hands firmly holding to a bowl which brimmed with fragrant drink. Radaman's nephew, a Styrian of Crete, correct? Yes, Your Majesty. The sound of the god's voice came in short, quiet bursts, stopping and starting, with a lingering upon the consonants, a calm confidence, however, cut through the stutter. I've heard a great deal of things from your relatives. Mind you, your pedigree alone commands a high expectations. Is it true you are skilled with wielding a labrys? A labrys, the prince muttered under his breath. Yes, Your Majesty. An unwieldy and unorthodox thing. That is, albeit most fitting of a Khitan's soul such as yourself, and a sign that your lineage indeed is as mighty as I was told. Few warriors can boast about mastering that old relic, wouldn't you say? Styrian of Crete, I asked you a question. The prince measured every word. This inquiry was a poisoned one. Pardon me, Lord Hades. In truth, I can boast nothing of it. It would be impious of me. Why? I mastered no relic, Your Majesty. Lord Hades' lips moved not, but the subtlest smile came into his eyes. So it would seem that you are as skilled with the artifact as you are with words and laws, much like your relatives. The prince's shoulders slouched forward, yet again he had dodged a trap. You would have made a fine bureaucrat. I could use a head skilled with wordsmithing, and it would be quite an opulent position for the standards of Asphodel. And yet, your uncle has told me that you wish to join the guard. His gaze went back to his kingdom, to the sprawling city and far beyond, the mountain range which cradled it. Border Patrol, a simple yet crucial position in the hierarchy of the underworld. Lord Hades took a sip of his drink. From afar, a Styrian caught just a whiff of its scent, the purest, most fragrant of all aromas. The living must be kept out until their appointed time of arrival comes. Bodies of flesh and bone are ill-equipped for this land, and the dead too, all of them, must remain here. The newly dead dream of returning to the world of the living. Little do they know that disembodied soul will, in less than a day, lose both form and mind upon the surface. For good of all, the subjects of them, each realm must remain in their rightful homes. Do you understand the importance of our mission? Yes, Lord Hades. He looked at Styrian, the hybrid man still standing with stiff posture, and bovine head lowered in reverential deference. The only sound between them was a soft pattering of what the flippers? No, chthonic rain upon the courtyard's roof. You shall speak frankly to me now, with fear or shame, without fear or shame. Radamanth told me you have already taken a liking to the underworld. Is that so? Yes, Your Majesty. My time here has been brief, but I quite like it already. Not to disrespect Lady Hestia, or the duty I held to her, but life of a commoner in the underworld has afforded me more freedom and plenty of than my life above as a prince ever did. I see. Tell me then, if you have the chance to return to the world of the living, would you take it? I would not, Your Majesty. How rare. Perhaps you will come to love my realm then. The prince at last dared to meet the gaze of the underworld's king. Lord Hades' eyes were as heavy as solemn as polished marble, his brow furrowed like gentle sloping veins of ore. I am aware of your history as Styrian of Crete. King Minos' nobility granted you no privilege, one could argue. It was greater than a yoke than it was ever a gift. And your heritage, as Fate's daughter of Sun, Poseidon himself, and King Minos, descendant of Zeus. You could have been a demigod with a pedigree this refined, or at the very least, a great holy man or advisor. But it seems that all your greatness brought you no pleasure or glory. And then there is that matter of which we cannot speak. He took a sip from his bowl and let it rest in his mouth, nursing every bit of grace it might bring him. In that moment, to Styrian, the god of the underworld, seemed small and tired as he enjoyed that single pleasure. Hades, his own head, hung low as he brought down the bowl, as if he had fallen asleep, but his voice rang out nonetheless. But your past matters not in my court. Both nobility and commoners are the same to me. Sons and daughters of Olympus find themselves punished just as often as the mortals they scorned. Your flaws, your family's disgrace, all the pomp and glory of your lineage, your trial wiped it all clean. If you will serve me, all that matters is that you choose to do it of your own free will. And if time is so merciful of love for this world. Hades finished his drink and placed the bowl on his lap, upright. Cradled by his legs, droplets of light still glimmered at the bottom of it. This land is peaceful. Its people kind. You will see that it is quite unlike what mortals tell in their tales. Before I inherited the realm from the older order of my brothers, and overturned the souls of mortals, were fated to turn stagnated and malevolent. My brothers wished for glory and worshippers, while I chose to stay here, to offer a true home and resting place to those who once toiled upon earth. Despite what my detractors would say, the underworld's purpose is to be a home. So you will find dignity and a place of belonging, if fortune allows, happiness too. From a basket by his side, the god pulled a folded piece of cloth. The prince could see, even from afar, that it was a rich fabric, for even the underworld's dimness, it shimmered with life. A Styrian of Crete, is it your wish to join the underworld's guard? The prince's voice rang clear and true, free from all tragedy he had carried in life. Yes, my lord. And swear you now to uphold the underworld's mission to do all in your power to make this realm into a home for those lost souls reaped from mortal realm. Yes, my lord. Take this and arise. The lord of many extended his hands, cradling that sweet fabric, even as he offered it to the former prince. And so, with his solemn and joyous vow, a Styrian of Crete embraced his eternal mission. The Minotaur caressed the letter, appreciating every minute hill and valley left to his old lord's calligraphy. His eyes, meanwhile, latched onto the intricate signature at the bottom. All under the employ of the underworld's monarch were taught to recognize it, to respect it, and to identify any attempt of its forgery. Despite all the thousands of years, the Minotaur memory was pristine, as sure as the sun sets in the west, and all mortals meet their end. That was the mark of his Lord Hades. A Styrian of Crete was no coward. He defiled no relic, nor did he defy the commandments of Olympus. The starry-eyed prince didn't betray his family, nor his country, and neither did he subvert the natural order. That thrice-cursed trial, which sentenced him to captivity in this realm, was illegitimate. Asterion expected hummingbirds to rise and peck at him, or for a ring of fire to envelop his throat and strangle the thought right out of him. But none of that came. All he had was silence that shuffled his hooves until an idea snuck into his mind and out from his lips. I am innocent. It sounded like a lie. By the 12, he expected to be struck down right then for his hubris. Is it hubris or hubris? But punishment never came. All that followed was a silence most kind and sudden warmth spreading outwards from his chest. If I am not guilty, then what must I be? Before any poison seeds could take root, the prince rose and ran to his wardrobe. A longing set his eyes and hands into a blaze. It should be here, that old friend's darker than the underworld itself. One of the few things that came with him to his realm. He knew it was as soon as his fingers touched it. The texture of that old cloak, fit only for true and loyal servants of Lord Hades, never for a disgraced prisoner. He caressed it, unleashing a torrent of memories. The Minotaur's heart wrenched within its chest, and his face twisted into a snarl as the hurt became unbearable. All he could do was hug it, and swallow the knot in his throat. Lord Hades of the Golden Chariot, if only I could have your wisdom one last time. Should I? Can I? All disgrace and infamy wiped clean. To serve out free will and love. To find a place of belonging and dignity and work. And I hope happiness too. Like an eagle with its wings outstretched, the cloak cut through the air and settled upon the prince's step wide back. Even if the world itself would deny it, at long last he was a prisoner no more. Lord Hades, noble Idonus, you would want me to be fearless and to take what I seek with my own hands. Thank you, my lord, for everything. Meanwhile, they came. Wanderers no more from across the salt knobs and desert. They spotted the red horns tearing through the sky, asunder the hotel's walls jutting from the landscape. The peacock tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He could see his inheritance already. The Minotaur, meanwhile, looked into the mirror, in the sun visor. His snout so large in the tiny car, legs cramped and unable to fidget out of his nervousness. He tidied his fur, then stopped. Looking presentable was never his thing. At long last, Oscar draws a breath. Hey, it's that star. At long last, Asterion draws a breath. It has only been a handful of times since there were a knock on the door, and in came. The Minotaur had continued to look into the mirror, as if his clothes would change on their own if he didn't keep track of them. What pride he felt over the cloak, and their pair of regal horns framing his head. Large enough to command respect, not so much as to become clumsy liabilities. He brushed his fur so that not a strand sticks out, all is perfect symmetry. He felt he had to make more certain, however. Behind him, draped in gold and crimson from the drying light of dusk filtering in through the window, the good man looks down at his agenda. The evening schedule, outlined down to the minute, all broken down into little blocks. The hotel's grand opening and its renaming. Minotaur Hotel. The man lifts his gaze to the step wide back, sea-foamed hair, pristine horned prince, who returns it through the mirror. Now, that's a nice look. That cloak seems tailored for you. As it was. I have always kept it for a very special occasion. A stern smile shines like the sun as it rises over the horizon from the sea, and his ears sway like a laurel wreath in the breeze. He readjusts his legs, and in doing so, his hooves give out sweet-sounding notes. If one were to strain their ears, could hear a wide-hearted rumbling within the prince's chest. But the poor thing cannot be aware of his own grace, for his eyes see only you. For the man who is most beautiful is beautiful to see, but the good man will be at once also beautiful being. Another one of your original poems? I could only wish it was. This one belongs to Sappho of Lesbos, the 10th muse as she was called. Wow, I don't know what's happening. Throat. It's been like 3 hours. But I make her words mine. You are good. And the most handsome man I've ever had. You are good, and the most handsome man I've ever had the privilege of seeing. You're only trying to get into my good graces, flatterer. Is this some ploy to get me into the mood to renovate another section of the hotel? No, that is one fine idea. I was not astute enough to think that far ahead. What a tragedy. I wasted my sweet-sounding niceties on being honest and sincere. The prince closes his eyes. One by one, the hummingbirds come to graze the back of his head. This time, forever, they only flutter about. However, they only flutter about, beating their wings to send shivers down his spine. They may clench his jaw, but they bring no fire to his throat. Okay, I have a question. For anyone who's reading this, is that an actual thing? Like with the... what? Religious? No, with the... like, mythical. No, fuck. With, North mythology, not North mythology. Greek mythology, with the Greek myths. With the Greek, mythological Minotaur of the Labyrinth. Is there an actual thing where, like, they feel hummingbirds on their back or whatever? Or is this just, like, anxiety thing that people have? Because I don't think of anxiety, but it's just, wow. It's, like, very relevant in the story, I think. Not relevant, but, like, or I guess it is, but, it's more like, it just shows up every once in a while, or, like, a lot. I'm, like, wondering. He can't stop himself from stretching and arching his back. He covers his nape with a palm, and how odd, he swears he can recall having a scar there. Yet today it feels so smooth, perfect fur, softer than cream. He draws a breath, and never in thousands of years did he breathe so free, as if a collar had been undone from around his neck. The breath of life. It is as if he was back home again. He turned around, half expecting to see someone long gone, before your eyes. But before your eyes meet, he already knows whose face he will see. Hey there, big guy. You bring me so much nostalgia. Your attitude, your leadership, your kindness, even the way you speak. Why is it going back like this a lot? It all reminds me of my best friend, both my brother Androgios, and my brother Phronos. The prince takes 2 steps towards you, bringing his smell of salt water and sunlight to your senses. But you are delightfully different. When you put it like that, it could even make me bashful. I'm no such legendary hero. Are you sure? Maybe the myths gave you the impression one must descend from a god, or fight some great and terrible monster to be the stuff of legends. My brother was a great leader, so are you, of course, but his greatness was gift from the gods. Yours, in contrast, is yours alone. Handmade, homegrown, holy man. And Phronios, wise and crafty as he was, never had your wit and mastery. You make me feel alive, and in that sense, you remind me of them. But you are you, and as much as I love them, I cannot say I would prefer their company today. As much as he generally takes a lumbering and deliberate movements, the Minotaur finds his moments to be swift. Grabbing and embracing you in his arms is one of those moments. You haven't even had the time to hug him back before he lets you go and continues speaking. You make an art of friendship. I could not have asked for a better and greater, a more beautiful and gracious partner. Not master, no. I will give in this time. If partner or co-owner is what you would have me call you, tonight I will accept your suggestion. My suggestion? His ears flicker, along with his laughter. Yes. If we are truly equals, then your commands are no more than suggestions, correct? That is the price of freeing a man, I believe. I can live with that, as long as we're together and getting this hotel up and running. It was not enough that you heal my wounds. You had to dig deeper, and I never believed I was human. The very idea seemed absurd. But with you, it feels like nothing else could be true. Those transcripts you brought showed me that the gods did not abandon me, and with the weight you liberated me from. But whatever they said, that means that little if have you with me now. But whatever they said, that means little if I have you with me now. Whatever you say will be my truth for now and forever, since you are so clearly knew better from the beginning. So what say you, then? Am I human? Deserving of good and kindness, worthy of being your co-owner? Yes, 1,000, no, 1,000,000 times yes. That many. Exactly the number? As many as there are stars in the sky. And if you ever doubt it for a single second, I'll be happy to remind you that many times. You, Asterion, are human, and my worthy co-owner, and my best and dearest friend. He groans, half moves at your words, but he still smiles to hear them. Then, that is my truth, although this time I was already certain of it before asking. How can I ever repay you, you amazing man? Me? I'd probably be silly. I don't know. What can you do to make it up to me? How about you make me breakfast with every morning, and I keep you company when the day's over, and are winding down from work, and help you out with the running of the hotel. Think you can do that for me? But I already do all that. But now you'll be doing it out of gratitude and not just for the goodness of your heart. I see. Quite the important distinction of that. Though if you are really want to make it up to me, how about you do my laundry from now on? Just don't pull a Luke and do anything indecent with my underwear, okay? It's gonna do it. You're thinking about it, aren't you? Could it be the Honorable Prince Asterion of Crete? Is it base pervert? The Minotaur snorts and swats at you, careful to be sure that his cuffing strike barely grazes the top of your head as you duck away. And then his laughter, full-throated and hearty, fills the room along with yours. That is what I'm talking about, the way you treat me, as though I am your... There are many kinds of love. Forgive me if I somehow sounds odd or overwrought, but why am I tearing up? With both hands, you wipe the tears from his eyes, even as more form anew to trickle over your fingers. Sometimes we cry when we're happy. Yes, I'm happy, but that's not it. For so long, I have known the joy of giving a home to those who are lost, and I was content to feel that alone. But the thought of being by your side, serving you, being your partner, what have you, fills me with what I can only describe as euphoria. It is joy, but as the same as it pains me, it feels so close, but so distant, from what I want. His eyes wander the room rather than to stay on you, even while he leans his cheek against your hand. And this hurt, as bad as it is, by the gods, this want makes me feel so alive. But I fear it too. Not that you will hurt me, but this want is so overwhelming. It feels like hubris to want all sometimes. I stop and think about it all. Could I even deserve a life with this joyous and blessed? But then I think back to the letter from Lord Hades, to his defense of me, and regardless of that Olympus decided for me, I choose to make this joy which I desire. Then I think of you, my lord. His tail twitches. I'm so afraid of saying or doing something untoward, and I have this sense within myself of being burned, and yet all I wish for is to draw closer. When I am with you, serving you. I cannot find it in myself today to fear the gods, but I am so frightened of all this overwhelming me sometime soon. But you just, sir, you ease the overwhelmedness while you add to it. He lets out a moo, he lets out a moo, not unlike a deep whimper. Sir, oh, I know you do not like it, but I've never felt so happy to call a man sir as you. All your excellences and your majesties in this world put together would still not be enough. And then at last, the knot which binds the final confession within his throat comes undone. I love you. Do you know that? Asterion lifts his arms, reaching out to you, but stops before you. Regret or fear can drown out bravery. You follow suit and untwine your fingers with his. It takes a moment for him to register your touch, but not for a second later. His chest swells and splays out as he pulls you closer. His other arm wraps shyly around your back, with all the gentleness of two young boys walking hand in hand to their home. You take a step forward. He stands his ground, one arm grappled around his waist, and the other hands held together with fingers tightly entwined. Your legs touch as if in a dance. Gazes meet one last time before all pretense falls to the ground. You press your forehead against his own. The warmth of his breath and scent of his fur becomes your home. His senses, meanwhile, are caressed by your touches, tenderness, and understanding in your gaze. A huff leaves his nostrils and fades into a whimper. You let go from holding his hand and run your fingers up his arm. You drape a hand over his back of Asterion's neck. Your fingers finding a resting place over the notch of his vertebrae, and his throat finds peace and rumbling along with each and every caress you give. His thighs inch closer to yours, and his hands yearning for attention lay upon and hold your back. The ensuing hug has a life of its own. Asterion constricts and lets go of you in unison with his heartbeat, and every lungful of air is a tentative shudder through him. His fingers curl into your shirt, cradling every little ember you have given him. Your nose nudges his. The two align into just the right angle. His mouth opens in anticipation, and you bridge the last inch to meet his rough, tender-hearted, sweet, bitter touch. Asterion's body takes on a will of its own. He lets out a groan, halfway between a whimper and a lowing as you're lowing. Okay. He lets out a groan, halfway between a whimper and a lowing as your lips meet. Such a shy nudge at first, though hesitant as the two of you shudder under the spreading warmth of your affection. His tail flicks, then thrashes as he catches the first taste from the tip of your tongue. Meanwhile, your senses are taken by his scent. always of salt water and sun, mixed with the sweetness of his breath. As if electrified, his fur threatens to stand on end just as his legs wobble. The shiver of that accompanies it, brings him pressing closer against you. And yet, the seal between your lips is unpracticed. Tongues scarcely brush against each other, and tender as it may be, it cannot make up for the lack of familiarity. With your disheartened tremor, the moment ends too soon, and your mouths grow half an inch apart. Just as it happens, Asterion fails to hold back a chest-rumbling whimper. You lay your head on his chest, ears primed to hear his galloping heartbeat as it slows to a trot, and after a long minute of respite, a leisurely stroll. Asterion, meanwhile, brings a hand to your nape, pulling you even closer, making sure you feel every sway of his body, leaving no choice but to make your warmth one with his. Your eyes meet again, and this time it's Asterion who nuzzles his mouth even closer to yours. He sets his hands on your waist, soft enough that you could walk away from it, but growing firmer as the realization of how much he wants this takes root. There is a want in every minute of shift of fingers, in the leaning of his head to aligning your mounts, and how his shoulders contract as his lips make contact with yours and then slouch as they part together. His mouth, with its rough and inelegant tongue, nonetheless tastes better, sweet bitter, honey and coffee. His heartbeat is a far more harmonious than a lyre. His eyes glimmer brighter than gold. His sweet bitter mouth melts your limbs. His tongue is shy to respond, and when it does, it's cumbersome and unwieldy, but only at first, as wild and unsightly thoughts trot about. The prince closes his eyes, and he sees again the night when you took up the ring on your arm and all manner of tenderness you've extended to him, and each memory forces up a contented sigh from his mouth to yours. His tongue mingles with yours. With his mind free from fear, Asterion allows his body and heart to speak and dance along with you. As he readjusts his stance, his hooves sound so very human. The two of you allow the kiss to linger as inch by sweet burning inch, your bodies are wired together into that intimacy only lovers know. You offer a drawn-out, chest-rumbling sigh of your own. It's the least you can do in response to all the fine and delicate sounds which the behemoth in front of you has blessed you with. This time, his hands find his own spark of dominance. He holds your head and giggles while exploring the cavern of your mouth at his own leisurely pace. The laughter breaks the seal of your kiss for a mere second or two, but the fire always pulls you back together. You rub your hands up his back. Upon reaching his neck, you ever so slightly pull him down so he's at the same level as you. Awkward as the position may be for him, there is no protest. That is, until he grabs your waist in a full hug and lifts you to his level. No amount of wriggling your legs or gripping his sides will do. For a full minute, you are his to do with as he pleases. And what he wishes for above all else is more of your soft kiss. He holds you high, as if to pour your affection into him, and become drunk with it. The prince may be tender, good lord, but he is not without rebelliousness. You rest your arms on the arch of his lower back, threatening to go lower and lower. Half an inch down, and Asterion's tail rises. Whether the nose and commands it or not is a mystery for the ages. The ensuing full-hearted laugh interrupting the kiss and tightening of his grip on your back. However, is unequivocal conscious. He continues to seek your mouth's affections, and top of the tail rubs against the side of your hand. You may go lower if you wish, but perhaps that is better kept for another time. The proximity makes it difficult to maneuver your hand, but you manage to place it over the steering's cloth belly. Undoing a single button of his dress shirt is easy, and the giggle that escapes his mouth would indicate its welcome. His stomach has only a fine dusting of fuzz. It does nothing to hide that youthful softness of his skin. In fact, it invites you to graze your fingers over that warmth, velvety expanse so he may sing out another, more of childlike giggles. His defense is pulling you closer until you have no space left to maneuver that hand, so his laughter does not keep your mouths apart for long. We all know, good Lord, how unrelenting the passage of time is. No matter how much one chooses to prolong it, a joy such as this lasts only for a short while. It is for the best. A lover's touch would lose its sweetness were it to last forever. In fact, the source of its allure is in how, no matter how much one tries, there will always be a gap separating even the most giving of lovers. So seal your lips, good Lord, and feel the rawness left by the absence of your darling's tongue. Here comes the final moment of tenderness. My king, look into his knowing eyes and make it count. Can we do this one? How childish it is to rub noses after this whole affair. Perhaps that too is essential to love. In the absence of the kiss, a bashfulness returns to a Styrian smile. To go from friend to lover, and back to cherished friend again, how utterly human. You scratch his right ear, and in turn he leans into your touch. Then you give attention to his left, and he goes altogether softer than you, almost torn between which hand to lean upon. Perhaps there is some feline heritage in the ox. You lay a hand on his tail, not quite gripping or pulling it. He swats it left, right, left again, and then lays it still as he puts his chin over your head and squeezes you against his chest. If you would allow him to hold you like this, then perhaps you shall be allowed to hold his tail. His whimpers are a little louder, not blocked by your mouth, as you softly manage that appendage behind him. He does not let go. The scent of salt water and sun, mixed with bitter spice of a man, divinity, chaos, and humanity. Is it not as the 10th muse said? The beautiful man is beautiful to see, but the good man will at once also beautiful be. Perhaps one should add that from the good man and in all his parts, only beautiful can be. You cling to him, and to him to you, wanting, needing, desiring. The quiet moment between you and your Styrian is only broken, or perhaps merely caressed, by the softest of breaths. Then I love you. I love you too, little star. Okay. Wow, that was something, y'all.